Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, 320 Sim Pilot. I'm a real-world airline pilot, and in today's video I'm going to have a look at the new Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We've all been very excited about this sim arriving, and it's a big moment for flight simulation. We don't get a new simulator very often, and of course our last big one was Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and then of course X Plane 12 in the meantime. So we're going to look at this new sim for a quick circuit here at Edinburgh, just like I did in my first videos in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and we're going to see how it stacks up and what we think of it as a simulator. It is of course early days, there's lots of updates and changes to come, and like many of you, I have had an absolutely awful time trying to get into the simulator at all to start off with. It looks like we are now finally able to at least load it up so we can get a bit of a taster for what's to come as this simulator progresses. We're going to do our flight from here in Edinburgh, as I said, in this Airbus A330 Beluga XL. This is their super transporter aircraft. It's a bigger version of the original Beluga, which was based on the A300 aircraft. This is based on the A330, so it is essentially the A330 flight deck. The reason I wanted to use this in the sim for today's video was this was one of the airplanes I was most excited about, and yeah, I think it's one that everyone's going to get included. It's made by AnyBuild, so this is a big feature that we now get these aircraft made by third-party developers, which I think is a good thing for the default airplanes coming in the simulator. No one can argue that the amount of aircraft available in Microsoft Flight Simulator is really impressive to start off with, even if you get the most basic version. The downside has been, of course, that the launch has been a pretty tough experience for most users. There was real difficulty getting the game to connect. The download wasn't too bad, it was quite small, but then when you actually try and load in any of the airplanes, you are relying on it streaming, it seems, off of the servers, which is causing huge issues when lots of people want to play. Now, it's a bit of a shame because although there were, of course, lots of users on launch, it's quite common occurrence for modern video games that use streaming services at launch to have these issues. So I feel like it's not quite a defense to say that it was unpredictable how many people were going to log in. I think we did know that it was going to be popular. I mean, it happens so often, but here we are, and it's taken a long time. This video is coming out much later than I hoped, but I am excited to be in the Beluga, so let's get going and let's have a look at some of the systems that have changed, and there's quite a few changes in this simulator. First off, here on the flight deck, and lo and behold, we run into our next issue with this whole streaming idea. I have quite a fast internet connection. It's caused me no trouble. I have streamed photogrammetry scenery while streaming games. I've done live streams using it as well and had no issues. And yet here we are looking at quite an unfortunate situation, which is that if the airplane doesn't load itself in properly, you just get this blurry sort of textures. Now, this is all but unflyable in many ways. I can't see what any of these instruments do. You can turn on accessibility to get around that, but of course it's not what we want to see. The plus side is that the sim is running relatively smoothly in the background, so my camera controls and everything feels smooth, and it's running quite nicely. And I can tell that this is a detailed aircraft. Things like the tray table work, so there's lots to be enjoyed here once we can actually see it all in full detail. But yeah, unfortunately, as you can see, there are a whole host of missing textures all around us. Lots of things are very similar and will feel familiar. They've changed the user interface quite a lot, a bit more block squares now, but yeah, it's pretty standard. I've turned off the assistance tooltips to show me all the buttons, because of course I would rely on looking at them myself normally. Some things that are nice: this is a default airplane, but here we are, we have a tablet. We do have a takeoff calculator which we can use, so it's got lots of details that we just didn't have when these airplanes were launched, which I'd expect given that this is made by AnyBuilds. So yeah, optimistic. Just again, it's at the moment the whole experience is hampered by the streaming side of things. Now again, this could just improve and be a non-issue by the time we see this simulator arrive with a bit more capable servers and perhaps less people trying to use it all at once. As we look around, you can see that there's some changes. The grass now looks a little more authentic, gently wobbling around in the wind. We're going to, as time goes on, I'm going to be taking out, of course, the off-road airplanes to see how that works with the mud and so on. That's something I'm excited about. Let's have a look at the default airport, though, and see what we think of that. Now, there have been some big changes. I've turned off live traffic, but you can have live flights with real airlines and airplanes flying around as per their real-world counterparts, which I think is a really nice feature. However, I've had to turn it off because I'm trying to get the internet to work better, and I don't know whether it's my internet or the servers that are causing the issue. So I turned off the live traffic in an attempt to try and get anything to load in. And what we can see here is the default Edinburgh airport. Sadly, this is not much of an improvement over what we had before. Sobo did say that they had made big improvements to jetways and so on, but what you can see is pretty similar. We have I would say slightly improved taxiways, although you can see signs sitting in all the wrong places here blocking taxiways. We do have sort of continuous yellow lines instead of these absolute empty grey squares, which we did used to get before. So that is a slight improvement. As we look over at the airport, of course, not much of an improvement there. It looks very standard, very generic, very grey all around. And then the tower actually looks a bit worse than it did in 2020 when I loaded that up for the first time 4 years ago. As you look on the ground, though, I do think the taxiways in general are a slight improvement. We do have centre lines, we've got edge lights, and the taxiway lines continue round into the apron, even with some parking signs. So these little yellow squares here to show you the stand number. So that's an improvement. It's also interesting to see real airlines, although this is a Boeing MD-10 freighter. Quite an interesting airplane to see. But we've got real airline sitting over here, so it looks like some liveries have been improved to be used by the simulator, which is good because that wasn't the case before. This is AI traffic you're seeing here, and like I say, AI traffic before was all these generic sort of fake airlines, and now we get the real ones. Runway also improved. We have rubber touchdown markers, so you got all the rubber from where airplanes have landed over and over again, and their tyres have left rubber on the runway, so that's really nice to see. It's definitely an improvement over the old ones that always look like fresh concrete. So there we go. We'll see the scenery once we get up in the air. No doubt it's going to have to stream in as we go around, but there are some changes to what we see on the outside of the simulator. On the flight deck then, and my textures aren't loading in, I'm too nervous to restart the sim. I'm not willing to do it because it's taken me, at this point, I started loading in at launch time, so it's taken me, whatever, 12 hours to actually get the sim up and running in any way, shape or form. So I'm not willing to go back and out and in. And it I didn't want to make a video not with the actual full experience, but this is the experience, I'm afraid, and this is what I have to work with right now. We'll see how it goes over time. So let's put in our performance: 138, 140, 142. And you can see here that this does work: 138, 140, and 142. I actually guessed those original speeds, so my 140 rotate speed unbelievably was spot on. Pretty happy with that. And does it give me a flap setting that it wants? Config 1 plus F, so there we go, bring the flaps in. Quite typical on an Airbus. If you go flap 2 and 140 knots rotate, you'd be hard pressed to go too far wrong. There we go, 1 plus F, so I need to put in the 1 down here, of course. Right, and then we do a takeoff config test. I did used to fly the Airbus in the real world. I currently fly the 787 Dreamliner if you're new to the channel. But there we go. So, that is looking pretty reasonable. The conditions outside, it's quite a wintry sort of morning, dry runway. And yeah, the controls are, well, everything is a bit more realistic than it was before. If you see, as I move the flight controls, the systems page for flight control comes up just as you would expect in the real airplane. As we look outside, aside from the very fast camera, the exterior model is actually really quite lovely. But yeah, you can see, again, expected. Any builds made this, and they've done a great job. The Beluga is a lovely aircraft, no doubt. Something else I'd like to show you, though, on the outside, actually, is that the jet blast has been significantly improved. I always had a problem with the jet blast, so that's the hot exhaust coming out the back of the engines. It always looked a bit funny to me in 2020. It looked like it wasn't really moving very fast, and X Plane 12 had a much better effect. But if you look now, you can see that it's actually greatly improved. That's a much more convincing effect to my eye, anyway. It will be a personal taste thing, that, but yeah, that's not too bad at all. Look at that. Love it. Also, as we go around the exterior of the model, we might as well have a look and just see. I mean, we're used to incredible level of detail in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. However, not so much of the default airplanes. Like I say, this is a default airplane made by a third party. It looks fantastic. Any builds know what they're doing. As you move the camera around, look at the detail on the vertical stabilizer with the sun, the panels, the metal, the rivets, the lights, the reflections, all look really nice. So can't complain about that. We've got so many more airplanes to try out in this sim, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see more. I fly the Boeing, so the Boeing 787, I want to see how that's changed from the one in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, but also the 737 MAX, and there are 747s now. There's the A400, all sorts of exciting off-road and adventurous airplanes to have a go on. Now, a quick change for the better is that there is an EFB now, and this has the checklist included. It's a much quicker system to use. I think they've improved the way you can click through these things. That's still pretty slow, the way the camera box pops up, but this checklist is a bit quicker and easier to use than the old system. I always loved the inbuilt Microsoft Flight Simulator checklists because you can go through them. It can show you how to do things in the airplane, so if I tick, it ticks me through the checklist one by one, and if you can't find the switch, so it says set signs to on, you click on the little I, and it will show you now. Actually, having said that, this is taking me to the wrong place. It's looking down here. The sign set on is up here, although of course you can't read it because it's not loaded in properly. But yeah, that's certainly something to see that's improved, is this checklist system. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, they made a big deal about their flight planning system. I have not been able to get that to work, so that is to come later. I want to get the full IFR flight plan done through here, but you can see that it does have your map, and again, it's easier to get to and use than the old VFR map that you had in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. You can see some stats about your aeroplane as well, but it doesn't really tell you much, but that's where you find your checklists in there, and this is good. I like this a lot. They've done a good job with that. So we can close that. Also, it's interesting to see the flight control recorder is embedded now. So I haven't used this. I used a different replay tool. So I'm going to set it to record and just see what happens, see if that works. I mean, that would be great. So again, they said that they'd have a replay feature. It's there, but it looks like they just used the one that somebody made for Flight Simulator 2020. But there we go. I suppose why not? As long as it works consistently and with all the airplanes, at least that are provided with a sim, that's what I'm really worried about. Right, let's get taking off then and have a go at flying the airplane around to see how it handles. So I'm going to release the parking brake. That control shortcut has changed, or did not work like I'd hoped there. Do the config tests. There we go. And now we can actually move the thrust levers in the notches. They've got a shortcut for sort of Airbus notches. So there we go, spool up. Okay, the engine's over boosted, that's quite unusual. And then go through to the next detent. It's jumped straight through to Toga because we didn't put in a flex, so that's fine. Mantoga SRS runway, order thrust is blue and armed, and away we go. Bit of forward side stick we should have at the start of the takeoff roll. H to 100 knots, stick to neutral, looking out to the end of the runway. Now the sim did load, as I noticed, not at the start of the runway, and that would have moved our performance slightly, but there's V1 and rotate, so gently rotating, positive rate, landing gear up. Now of course I've got all the simulators set to the most realistic settings that they have, so let's see how it handles. And already huge improvement over 2020 when it launched. The airplane does feel like an airplane, there's a bit of weight to it. Again, I would expect this from a third party, but still, it's reassuring to see. It does look lovely, and it is very smooth, I've got to say that. It's just a shame we can't get that cockpit to load up. But again, I'm not willing to try again right now because it's taken me, like I say, well over 12 hours to actually get into the simulator at all. Okay, we're through acceleration, so we can lower the nose. This is an Airbus, so let's see if the fly-by-wire systems are working. Flaps can come up as we go above the S-speed. Let's bring those thrust levers back. No, that is not working. We want the climb gate. That should have engaged the auto throttle system, but there we go. I'll do it myself. Thrust climb, climb, auto thrust, and we'll put in the autopilot. Flaps are up, gear is up. Disarm those spoilers. And I will turn off the nose gear lights. There we go. And we're flying away. Now, some other things to note. Again, compared to the default airplane, we have a full working MCDU, so we can actually put in an arrival. So let's put in the RLS into runway 24 at Edinburgh, and we'll go via. Well, we're going sort of off to the. Yeah, let's not do a via. Let's just do that, and then go direct to. Okay, we've got the RLS 24 in the box now. I'm going to turn the airplane downwind using the heading bug, and you can pull that, and it goes into heading mode. We'll go to the north of the city this time, so make a right turn round, and we'll go east. I quite like this little compass up here, that's quite handy. So if I put the heading bug there, I can see it. It's basically a navigation display. If I zoom out on here and move it to plan, you'll be able to see it there. So yeah, working nicely, and here's the airplane in the sky. Clouds look good, just like they did before. Like I say, the airplane itself looks lovely, but that's what I expect. And it is running very smooth. I'm running this on a laptop, an i9-13900HX and an RTX 4080 laptop edition. So there we go, as we turn around, coming downwind. Lighting, it's interesting to see the shadows. So you've got sharp shadows that blend into soft shadows, and that is a really nice effect. That's an improvement, I can tell already, the way the lighting's working. Hopefully we can get some light in the flight deck and get a sense of that at some point. Let's descend down to 4,000 feet. thrust idle open descent. So there we go, the standard Airbus autopilot modes are working, which is nice to see. So when I pull on the altitude knob, it does go into thrust idle open descent. And presumably if I put on the vertical speed, it goes into vertical speed mode. There we go. I have tutorials on all of these modes on my channel if you're new to flight sim and you're trying to work out what all this means. Let's go medium auto brake for landing, have that ready to go. Now, this is an interesting airplane because it carries cargo, so you can go over here and actually choose the cargo you want and load in different fuselages and so on and open up that cargo door. So that's really cool. That was a feature I loved on the original Beluga in X Plane. So yeah, I'm going to definitely have fun trying that out. Like I say, when I'm brave enough to reload the sim. So here's those shadows. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's nice and soft. They haven't got those wiggly lines around the outside. That was a big problem in 2020's simulator. The way the shadows came across in the flight deck was just could be really annoying. Oh, there we go. It's starting to go squiggly. I'm on ultra settings, by the way. I'm on the highest settings, which is what my computer defaulted to. Again, not helped when the internet doesn't allow it. Right, we're going to turn on the LS push buttons as we're preparing for the ILS. We're going to go down here and enter the destination data. So we go to Perth. So we've done our flight plan. RadNav has tuned the ILS. Progress page, I'm not going to worry about. Performance page. I think actually I've used a weather preset, so I think that's changed the QNH now to 1013. Certainly, yeah, it has. So let's do that. 1013. You can, of course, load the weather in. That did work just like normal. Temperature on the ground will be 15. Zero wind. And we'll just put in 300 for the minima for now. And we'll leave the ground altitude. Fuel prediction, we've got loads of fuel, of course. Secondary does work. Look at that. So let's copy that into the secondary. I'm impressed with that. Right. There we go, we're in out at 4,000 feet, downwind now. My flight control replay is not recording. It didn't record the takeoff. Right, so I pressed record and then I need to actually hit record. There we go. There's always something else to consider. So we shall see if we can get that to run for the landing. What else can we take a look at? Again, disappointing about this these textures, aren't they? But still, super looking airplane. Does it look significantly better than 2020? The shadows do. It's annoying, it's still wiggling here, but if you look in general, the whole flight deck does look nicer. The lighting is, it's already good in 2020, but this is a definite improvement. Things like the jet blast are nice on the outsides, but again, we have seen airplanes that look this nice in 2020, but it'll be curious to see if developers can do something new with this new sim 2024. Something they have changed is the way it pauses. I quite like this pause menu. I think that's really cool, the way it suddenly zooms out and then you pop back in and it goes in. I think that's quite a neat effect. The scenery around us looks lovely. No surprise there. It was lovely in 2020, but yeah, looking really nice. It's going to take time for this all to settle in and for us to fly around the world and figure out how much better it does or doesn't look. Again, it's sad that this is all hampered by the fact that I haven't got a flight deck working. I'm sure lots of you by now do have fully working flight decks, but yeah, it's taken me so long to load into any airplane at all. I'm just excited to be able to bring you my first experience with the sim as it is. This is literally the first time I've had an airplane up and running at all, and it's taken me forever. I've tried so hard, like so many of you. I was so disappointed with the way that unfolded, but there we go. Hopefully it's only onwards and upwards from here. Yeah, look at that shadow, the way that it's casting shadow on the wingtip, and it's all sort of soft shadow. That is nice. That is nice. Another feature I want to try out, if we go to settings. Now, there's my Ultra, just to prove that is true. I haven't got DLSS on. I'm going to try that later. I don't seem to need it right now. I haven't quite looked at the frame rate, but it seems very good. What I did want to do is if we go to flight model. No, I want something else. Interface, aerodynamic visualization. Adjust whether to display artificial. Let's have a look. So, this is quite a cool feature that shows us, strobe warning there, shows us how the aerodynamics are working, which I think is nice to see. We've seen this in some other sims. Really cool. And I'm not sure what's happening with these block textures. Presumably this is to do with streaming as well. But yeah, you can see the way it's moving over the wing just there. I apologize if this is a bit too much flashing going on the screen, but there we go. I will turn it off very shortly, but you can see how that's being influenced. Let's just take out the autopilot for a second and try out the airplane, shall we? So that's the autopilot off. As we pull up, yeah, you can see the angle of attack increase over it. The throttles increase as we go down. Now this could be a really interesting feature on some messing around with certain aeroplanes, I think. Yeah, you can see, if you look on the right, you can see how that aileron is deflecting the air. That's cool. Cool. What about the rudder? Yes, look at that. That's quite something. Anyway, we'll turn it off because that's pretty horrendous to look at. I was hoping it'd be a little easier on the eyes than that. That was flight interface visualization. Good. Like I say, hopping around the menus and so on, it actually seems to be relatively improved. So let's drop back down to 4,000 feet. We're going open descent, put it into heading, fill the heading bug around here, gauge the autopilot. And let's just have a look where our ILS is. It's around the corner here. So let's do that. Let's drop down to 3,000 feet. Just start open descent, get some speed brakes going. I'm going to activate the approach phase. And as it's an Airbus, I can go direct 14 miles, please. Goes into thrust out, open descent nav, which is correct. 5,000 feet, we're at 18 miles. That's actually fine. We're okay for speed, so let's just put it into vertical speed. Nice and gently around the turn. Speed's coming back because we've activated the approach, so now it will target our minimum clean speed. Airbus does lots of things like this for you. We can enjoy that lighting. It is excellent. How's my flight recorder? Is it still recording? I don't know. That seems to have broken. I'll not be happy. Don't know what's going on. Here we go. It is still recording. That's good. Because I did just minimize it earlier. I was worried it had completely disappeared on me. Okay. Well, this is all a huge improvement over where 2020 was at launch, and this is what I was hoping for. Let's go to the speed brake, by the way, because we said we're okay. I mean, vertical speed shouldn't do that together. They say that, and now we've got a problem down here. So let's just do another direct 2. Now, problems with lateral navigation. Well, that's the reason. I've put it to the wrong waypoint. That's my fault. Try again. There we go. Okay. So I got to take the blame for that one. Speed brake's still out, it says. Speed brake's away. Good. 3,000 feet, 60 miles out. We are far too low. Well, not too low, but we are lower than you need to be, so that's absolutely fine. We're safe over the water, heading in to join the ILS now. Keep the aeroplane clean for now. So like I say, the bits that are running do run, look at that, really smoothly. Definitely smoother than 2020 did, even towards the end. I know that this is a relatively clean sim. I haven't got anything installed, and as we know, it does seem to be just streaming lots of this stuff, so it doesn't seem to have much in the way of having to load in except what it downloads, which is sort of a curse and a blessing at once. Now let's put that to the correct QNH 1013. But yeah, you're going to have a lot of fun. I think I'm guessing that the A330, which is also from Any Builds and is of course the same flight deck as this, almost identical. There are some changes for the Beluga that they have modelled, which is really nice. I can't show them to you because they're missing in the panels here. But there's that start. One of the changes is the way that they've drawn this air conditioning. Look at that. It shows the Beluga hump. I really like that. I think that's cool. But yeah, this is a really nicely done add-on. I can tell even if I can't see it all, and I'm optimistic that therefore the A330 is going to be lovely for those of you who want to fly that in the sim, and that's exciting. We haven't seen many A330s come to the sim. There was of course the Aerosoft one at the end of 2020's run, but there we go. Okay, joining on to the localizer then, let's arm the approach and the second autopilot. And this is all correct. These FMAs are fantastic. FMAs are flight mode enunciators. These are up here. They tell us what the autopilot's doing. So there's a localizer star, Cat 3 dual AP 1+2. So this is all what I would expect to see on an Airbus. Let's bring out the first stage of flap. So flaps 1, flaps are travelling. The engines are a little bit overexcitable. That was a big change of thrust there. So there's some bugs in the way the throttles are working, I think. But now it's going to reduce to the S speed, as I would expect it to. Really nice. And this is what's crucial. Again, if we ignore the fact that I can't load the flight deck properly, as a default airplane at launch, this is working, and I'd be happy to take this on VATSIM as it is. I've got waypoints, I've got the databases, I can make it go to things, and I've even got the checklist. So this is good, right? the next thing to do will be, if I can load in, and we will do this on the channel very soon, as soon as I can, I'm going to try out the other aeroplanes. We're going to be trying out maybe some of the Asobo aeroplanes, the 737, and maybe the working title ones like the 787 and of course the 747. Plus we've got all the fun to have with the new technology in the soft aircraft, so the hot air balloons, the banner towing, things like that. Flaps 2. We are now at 8 miles, doing 170 knots, so not a bad position to be in an Airbus. Flaps 2 gives us a bit of drag on the trailing edge, which you can see there positioning out now. Yeah, very nice. I was so excited to finally have a beluga, and it's living up to what I hoped. There's the view. There's Edinburgh. You tell me what you think. Does it look better or worse? I thought Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020's scenery was excellent. The only difference here is I'm actually running this at ultra settings, which I didn't always do on 2020. So yeah, I mean, I can see that not everything is loading in down there fully. There's so many more things to explore. We've got to try the water handling. Got to try so many aeroplanes. I'm excited. You can see it sort of gently popping in though. What I want is for the aeroplanes, let's put the gear down before it gets too late, and flaps 3. Arm the speed brakes. We've got our medium auto brake on, so that's going to automatically apply the brakes after landing. We'll put out all the flaps so that we can slow down for landing, and then we're in a good place. If I could see what button to press, there we go. Cabin ready. Look at that, they've even got the cabin ready memo working on here. Really cool. Yeah, if the aeroplane could just be loaded in my sim, please. If I could just download it, then not have to worry about streaming it, that would be great, because then I don't mind the scenery. I can understand the scenery has to be streamed in. You can't have the whole world at this level of detail in your computer. Look at that. As we get lower, this is starting to really improve. Now, this is something I'm excited about. I want to take a carbon flight around off the mud and so on. Because look, once you get low and slow, this does look better than 2020 to me now. I mean, that's remarkable, isn't it? Now, I can't wait to get rid of all this extra stuff off the screen. I will figure that out soon. They, by default, have it all on, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, that's looking really nice. Right. Final approach. Disconnect the autopilot. They've even got that right. It made the correct noise. And I only had to press the button once, which is absolutely spot on. Now let's see if the glide slope and the pappies line up, which was always a bit of an issue in 2020. So we're getting slightly higher on the glide slope. Pappies showing 3 whites. That makes sense. There's the land mode. So again, all the automatics here are pretty much spot on. Very impressed. No, look, doing the same old thing. 2 whites, 2 reds. Glide slope just suddenly shot off above us. Just going to keep flying down as we would. No, glide slope's gone way off the screen there. That's a bit of a shame. Flare at 30. Close the thrust levers. There's touchdown. See if I can get the reverses out. The auto brakes do seem to be working, although they are flickering a little bit. No, I've not been able to get reverse out. Oh, there they go, finally. And we're down. Done. First flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I have 1,500 hours in 2020, so we'll see how many hours we get out of 2024 in its time. Let's set the parking brake. We'll go to forward idle on the engines. There we go. Welcome back to Edinburgh. What a little taster that was. So at this point in a video, I'd normally end and then I go and show my replays. And so I have to normally reconfigure the airplane, put everything back where it was. Now that seems to want to open it in a different window. There we go. Okay, so will it be able to... Look at that. It does work. If I press play, will it move the flight controls where I want them? No. No, it's doing the same thing as I was used to in 2020, which is that it doesn't actually move anything. So here you go. So now the speed brakes are going to stay up, because that's what they were on the ground. So if I stop the replay, put it on the ground, and there we go. Bandwidth too low. Speed brakes are up. Let's try and disarm them. Okay. Now if I put it here and press, or even lower, let's press play there. Is that going to work? That's optimistic. No, 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 no. I want a pause button. I need a pause button. What's the flyby camera? Oh, this is new. Can I make it work? Maybe if I wasn't in the drone when I pressed it. So we're currently in the drone. Let's go out of the drone. That's not working either. This is really... I need to spend a bit of time learning this program, I suspect. Whoa. Okay, let's stop that. I don't know what it's doing. As soon as you drag that... Well, let's see the landing from the outside anyway. We're going to see it from this angle, because that's all I can get you. Ooh, nice. There's some nice animations on the wheels there. Okay. Can we see that again? Now ignore this. Oh, this is not an easy system. Now ignore the speed brakes. They would be down. They've gone into their flight mode. So let's have another look at that. I want to see the way the wheels interact with the ground, and you get the bonus of a nice exterior shot of the landing. Into the flare. Yeah, look at that. So there's a slight pause. The wheels don't just animate into a flat position. They do seem to genuinely wait on the rear wheels, and then the airplane's still flying, and then the front wheels come down in a sort of staggered way. Let's see if that's true on all the airplanes. That's promising though. Pretty happy with that, definitely. So there we go. That's our first flight down in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. What are the first impressions? Well, the standard of the airplanes is obviously much higher. This is a default airplane. I know it's third party, like I keep saying, but it is a default airplane and it's fantastic. So right from the get-go, you can have a full-on airliner experience in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which was not true in 2020. So that is great. I think for the price, if you've got even a couple of these airplanes included, so I think the A330, the Beluga, I can't wait to try out the A400, the military transport airplane, but you're getting good value for money there, I believe. As long as you can actually get into the simulator, please let's hope that this is not how this continues. I need to be able to have the airplanes on my computer because I won't always have internet good enough. I do a lot of my videos while traveling now, and I rely on hotel Wi-Fi, and I'm going to really struggle if the simulator needs this just ridiculous levels of internet to run at all. Please let me download lots of things. I don't mind if the scenery can't stream or can't be downloaded, sorry, but I need the airplanes to be there available for me. I really do. Let's hope that is not how it always has to be. But other things that have changed, the graphics are an improvement. There is clearly a step up here. Like I say, the soft shadows are impressive. Although it's perfectly illustrated by the fact that the cockpit wouldn't load, that the streaming is again potentially going to hinder things there unless there's a change or things improve on that end. The soft shadow is really nice, the lighting's really nice, and I think the ground scenery is improved as we get lower down. The airports are slightly improved. This is a default airport. I'm sure the handmade airports are lovely, but the default airport looks slightly better than it used to. But yeah, I think the general scenery, that the trees and grass around do look lovely, and I think that's going to be really nice for flying around in things like the Cub or the firefighting airplanes. And you can tell by the way the simulator's been marketed and the splash screen that they've decided to use that that's sort of what they're going for, that adventurous sort of activity. And I think that's going to be good fun. We've yet to try the career mode, so we will do that on the channel. I'll be building up a career in flight sim alongside my real life one, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see more of that, as well as tutorials and guides on various airplanes. We're going to try out so many more airplanes, including the Boeings, very soon on the channel, as soon as I can get it all up and running for you. I like the promise of the EFB, their inbuilt tool for planning and the checklists. I think that's a smoother, better system than it used to be, so I'm excited for that. Camera systems, by and large, very similar, just a bit of tweaking, but it's ultimately feeling very much the same. I'm using the drone here just like I did in 2020, so that's all to come. Handling was lovely, but again, I would expect that from an AnyBuilds Airbus. I've yet to try out all the other airplanes, and we'll just see how they feel at low speed and see if the general consensus is they're nice. Same for the ground handling. They were always a little bit too grippy. We'll see how that goes. Felt good on this Beluga, so I'm optimistic, but we shall see how that is in the future. So, lots more to cover, so much more fun to be had in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see it, or for live streams and tutorials. We'll see you again in another video soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.